There's a lot of talk about prophecy these days. People believe we may be in the end times from a biblical perspective. So I admit, I took a look at the book of Revelation. I also picked up a copy of Jonathan Cahn's The Dragon's Prophecy. Now, I have no idea if we're in the proverbial last days for planet Earth. Could be another 1,000 years before the return of Christ or the Messiah. But when I read the book of Revelation, I saw some metaphors with application for today. As America approaches our 250th anniversary, we have to at least be open to recognizing some threats that are on the horizon. The Bible in Revelation chapter 6 mentions 4 horsemen and 7 broken seals of judgment. And they're destructive. Wrath of God, end of the world stuff. The sad thing, maybe the weird thing, is that there are a lot of indicators in the headlines and data that have the potential to be pretty apocalyptic. And while not exactly, they sort of do line up with the biblical account. Let me repeat, I'm not making a prophetic call on the end of the world. But the 6 trials of fire America is going through, or we will go through, are serious. Anyone is capable of taking our beloved America down if we fail these tests. Because this is so conceptual, I thought it might help to bring in my colleague, Mike Carter, back so we can dialogue and work through rather than providing just a monologue on this. Mike is a partner in the Economic War Room, co-host of Pirate Money Radio, and project lead for both our transactional gold movement and the NSIC Institute for Financial Advisors. Welcome back, Mike.
Kevin, great to be here today. You know, when you started talking about this topic, we were in D.C., and I happened to be walking through, looking at the monuments the other day and seeing the symbolism and all that goes on there, and thinking what you shared about with Revelations, the apocalypse. And I think it's really timely in that, you know, even our founding fathers, as they built these monuments, they put things to say, look out for these things. This is what we stand for. And I think we're seeing a lot of those things geopolitically now happening that do line up very well with what we're seeing in Revelations out there. And so if nothing else, it gives us that perception of, hey, we need to be watching out for these things.
Well, America is 250 years old next year, and that's actually rather young in nations, but rather long in societies. And what I mean by that is the Constitution is the longest lived Constitution of any in the world. This is going to be an overview episode. Over the next 6 weeks, my intention is to be analyzing each of the trials by fire that we're going to explain, 1 per episode. And let's not understate the reality. The threats we face are absolutely real. So there are 4 horsemen and 6 trials of fire I want to talk about, America being at a crossroads. The good news, we do have President Trump with a political window of opportunity for us to right some of the wrongs, and we can have God on our side if we get our act together and get our hearts right.
You know, so often that we hear, Kevin, as Christians, like, well, this is what the Revelation says, so I'm just going to sit back and wait for the Lord to bring us back. Is that the stance we should take as we see these signs?
Absolutely not. In fact, Proverbs 22:3 and 27:12 both say, a prudent man sees danger ahead and prepares for it. A fool goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. Sun Tzu, a non-biblical source, says, know your enemy and know yourself, and in 100 battles you will never be in peril. So we need to know our enemy, and those are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and then we need to know ourselves. That's the 4th one, actually. The first one is red.
Okay. We've talked about that a lot in Economic War Room. I'm guessing that's communism?
Communist China. Green.
Okay. Radical Islam?
Yeah, the Islamists, the Shariaists, the Mohammedites, you know, that is green. Blue.
I don't know, you got me on that one.
Globalists.
Okay.
The blue helmets of the United Nations. Then the globalists come through. And then the 4th one. So red, green, blue, and black.
Now, I got to admit, I heard you talk about this, and I thought it was so appropriate because that's about greed and apathy. And unfortunately, we see that sometimes within the political environment, sometimes within ourselves out there. And too much we've let that get in the way.
It is our own traitorous, greedy, and apathetic hearts. And you know, I pull up the book here, Blood Money by Peter Schweitzer, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans. We have literally our own greedy hearts and our desires to, you know, I'm going to outsource everything. I'll make an extra dollar. And yet people lose their jobs and so forth. So I want to compare the biblical account, Revelation 6, with what we're going to be talking about. In biblical account, it says in verse 2, it says, "And I looked, and behold, I saw a white horse conquering and a conqueror." Now, we don't have a white horse. We've got red, green, blue, and black. But you think about that, conquering and a conqueror, and you look at what's happening in the Middle East, and you see that there's a lot of conquering.
Definitely a lot of conquering there, yes.
Verse 4, another horse, fiery red, went out, took peace from the earth with people killing one another. I think of the French Revolution. I think of communist upheaval. In that case, the red horse there, I think, applies to the red horse here. Verse 5, "And behold, a black horse with a pair of scales in its hand, saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius," which was a day's wage. That's dealing with inflation and food prices. We're seeing parallels there.
And the denarius, we saw them devalue the metal content in that, much like we've devalued the dollar content of America's currency.
Exactly. In verse 8, "And behold, a pale horse, death and Hades." And it talks about demons roaming free on the earth and martyrdom. And of course, when I hear martyrdom, I think of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Plus, it talks about cosmic disturbances, earthquakes, collapse of society. It's different from what we're facing today, but you see some similarities.
But these things are happening,
Yeah.
And probably they've happened over time, but it seems like more and more these things are lining up so much to what we're seeing in the book of Revelation that it's worth really looking at and saying, okay, what does that mean to me? How do I apply that in my life? And what are we supposed to be doing to make sure we're prepared?
Yep, and again, I'm going to say, we're not talking about this is the end of the world. We don't know. There's nobody that knows that. Jesus himself didn't know the day or the hour. We don't know that. But what we are talking about are signs, birth pangs, or examples of apocalyptic things. And I don't want to downplay it. Any one of those 6 seals could be the end of America as we know it. It doesn't have to be. We have a choice in this, but it potentially could. When we talk about these, you're going to know these trials by fire because we've talked about them before. Those are very real threats that we face.
Well, and if nothing else, I think it's going to be good because just this conversation makes me want to get back into the book of Revelations and say, okay, what's God really saying in that right now for me? And I'd urge our audience members to do the same thing and then say, okay, how does that apply to some of the geopolitical things we see today?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you a preview. You hear central bank digital currency, you can't buy or sell without it. It sounds like the mark of the beast, but you also see in Revelation 6 talking about massive inflation where people, they work all day and they get a quart of wheat for that. That's a really...
Starting to hit kind of close to home.
It is. We've seen the inflation, we've seen the debt, we've seen the collapse of societies, not in America, but around the world, and it could happen here in America. All right, we're going to have to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking more with Mike Carter about the 4 horsemen of the American apocalypse. We'll be right back.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Gold holds its value far better than the US dollar. Let's see what happens when I go in this sweet shop and pay with gold. Can I pay with gold?
I mean, I'll take a wait, find out how much it costs.
Do you know what? Basically, do you know why I'm even using gold?
I do not.
It holds its value over time, but it's a bit difficult to spend, isn't it? Do you take this?
Yes.
That's MasterCard. Yeah, but I'm actually going to pay with gold, believe it or not, using this. That's my MasterCard, and it's linked to my gold wallet. So let's just watch that. Authorizing. Yeah, add a tip.
Thank you.
So this is your store?
Yes, sir.
And how much gold did I pay?
0.2243 grams.
Yeah, success. Bought with gold, paid with glint.
I've got my colleague Mike Carter here in the Economic War Room. We're talking through a new theory about the 4 horsemen of the American apocalypse and the 6 trials by fire. Mike, we're looking at 6 very serious threats to America. Similar to the end of days, less serious in that respect. I don't think the planet's ending. And these are more addressable. I think we can do something about these, and we have an opportunity to fix them. But we're going to have to take action. And you've been out on the action team. The first serious trial by fire that we're going to face is our debt bomb.
Okay, yeah, that's one we talk about a lot in Economic War Room, and certainly as we're out with the legislators talking about why we need transactional gold and silver out there. But with that debt bomb, it doesn't look good right now. What are we seeing? For almost $40 trillion in debt, and we're seeing interest rates with our interest payments on interest at $1 trillion in 70 days was the latest number I think I saw.
Yeah, we were just in Washington, D.C., and we were briefed on the fact that our debt went up $1 trillion in 71 days. And here's another statistic. In 16 years, if we stay on the current trajectory, all tax revenue from every American added up together won't even pay the interest on the national debt.
The entire revenue that comes in will not even pay interest. That sounds pretty catastrophic.
That is potentially...
That's got to be one of the big fire seals right now. And that's in what time? What period of time?
16 years.
Okay.
So that doesn't seem that far out. All right, as you know, I wrote the book Pirate Money in 2023. I've got a chart in there from usdebtclock.org. It was $32 trillion in debt 2 years ago. It just passed $38 trillion. So we've added $6 trillion in debt in 2 years. But here's the scariest part. They list the debt per taxpayer. You're a taxpayer, I'm a taxpayer. Your debt was $249,000. That's pretty high. But when I looked at this last week, it was $327,000. It's up, what is that, $78,000 in 2 years?
You know, it wasn't that long ago. We were working together, Kevin. I think the national debt was $17 trillion. You said it's going to go to $24 trillion. And you said a few more years it would go to 30-something. Now we're at $40 trillion. You've been on track through all of that. But when I hear these numbers, and you especially break it down at the personal level, that sounds like the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. I mean, I don't know how you recover from something like that unless we take action now.
When we get on it, that'll be our first trial by fire that we'll cover in a complete episode with answers. But that first trial by fire is going to metastasize into other trials, and the second one is currency takedown.
Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that for sure with the BRICS nations out there.
They've been planning it for 2 decades. Our other partner, Russell, and I went to Moscow together in 2006, and we were told by the energy minister and the currency minister and all of the economic people there, they unveiled that Vladimir Putin hated the privilege the dollar had and intended to create a BRICS alliance that would take down the dollar. So,
and you warned about that in D.C., and that was received how?
They ignored it. They said that's not possible. But even the Wall Street Journal in 2008 published an article about Igor Panarin. And he said in that journal article, and we'll cover this in detail when we cover the second trial by fire, he said mass immigration, economic decline, moral degradation, and the collapse of the dollar, calling the U.S. foreign debt a pyramid scheme and saying China and Russia would usurp Washington's role as global financial regulator. That is where the BRICS came from, right from that.
But you hit those 4 things right there: mass immigration, economic decline, moral degradation, collapse of the dollar. That was almost pretty prophetic on his part. We're seeing all those things happening now. The dollar hasn't collapsed. Hopefully we see that stay strong. But we've got to take some action here.
We do. And this is 19 September 2025, Separ.org. It says, loss of confidence in U.S. dollar's reserve currency status could trigger a collapse of the U.S. Treasury market and international financial fragmentation. This column argues that hedging is a rational response. So we're going to have to help people. If this trial by fire, if we pass it, how do we do it? And if we don't pass it, how do we protect ourselves?
Yeah. Well, if it's a trial by fire, I know I don't want hay and wood, right? I at least want some kind of gold on the financial side. But we got all kinds of trials out there. Moral degradation, all these things you're talking about.
First 2 trials suggest a triggering of demand for central bank digital currency, or at least weaponized stablecoins. We heard all about, we talked to Treasurer of the United States, we talked to treasurers from the various states, and they're all worried about this programmable money issue.
Yeah, and we should be worried, because that, I know, mark of the beast, you won't be able to buy and sell. That, the CBDC might be the source code, but when it says in there you won't be able to buy and sell unless you take that mark, I sure hope that if I'm around, I got another alternative.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. Catherine Austin Fitts gave a speech right before mine in which she actually used the same videos that we use on absolute control. Yeah, programmable money is no limits on supply, total control by the monetary authorities. You can't buy or sell without it. Now, our one big beautiful bill outlawed CBDC, but the Fed's working on ways around it. And the Genius Act allows stable coins, which could have private controls. And also, like Revelation, where prices can be set. You can only get so much. And the 134 countries and currency unions around the world, 98% of global GDP are exploring a central bank digital currency. 5 years ago, that was only 35. Right now, 66 countries are in advanced phase of exploration or launch.
I remember with 5 years ago them saying it'd be almost impossible to do all these countries align. Now we're seeing already it's moving much quicker. And probably AI and things like that are going to escalate that even more.
Well, and that's at the government level. On the population level, we're seeing a resurgence of socialism among young people, which leads us to the fourth trial by fire that we're going to have. All three of these are true. This one is triggered by all the first three trials, and it is inflation, the inability to buy a home, the inability to live the American dream. It's created a wealth gap where young people are rejecting free markets and saying we should do socialism instead.
Yeah, if you don't feel hope, you feel like, oh, let's just all figure out how to do something different.
Yep, young people understand there's little economic justice. The cause is not taxing the rich too little. It's caused in a free market by unjust weights and measures, just like the inflation of Revelation. It's called the Cantillon effect, and you've seen our buying power has gone 90% down over the past 50 years, and you've seen the wealthy get wealthier. We've got a Federal Reserve chart that shows it. The top 0.1% has increased their wealth at the same pace as the money supply has grown, but the bottom 50%, the average American, we've lost ground.
And that top 1% is probably in that Washington area where they print the money.
Oh, or yes, or Silicon Valley where they're printing money also, or New York or whatever, and yet we see the rise of Mamdani in New York. Oh, I hope he's not mayor, but bottom line is those are the first four trials by fire. We've got two more, and then we'll talk some solutions, and then we'll talk about the entire series where we can break it out how you can protect yourself personally. We'll be right back after this break.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Gold holds its value far better than the US dollar. Let's see what happens when I go in this sweet shop and pay with gold. Can I pay with gold?
I mean, you can wait, find out how much it costs.
Do you know what? Yeah, I mean, basically, do you know why I'm even using gold?
I do not.
It holds its value over time, but it's a bit difficult to spend, isn't it? Do you take this?
Yes.
That's MasterCard. Yeah, but this is. I'm actually going to pay with gold, believe it or not. Using this. That's my MasterCard, and it's linked to my gold wallet. So let's just watch that. Authorizing. Yeah, add a tip.
Thank you.
So this is your store?
Yes, sir.
And how much gold did I pay?
0.2243 grams.
Yeah, success. Bought with gold, paid with glint.
We're talking about the 4 horsemen of the American apocalypse and 6 trials by fire. And Mike, you and I, we're about the same age. We had families about the same time. We bought our homes about the same time and so forth. You know, we seem to have the American dream, and it seemed really good for us. And so the idea of having children was a positive. I mean, I looked forward to having children.
And glad that we did. You know, my family, your family, and it's a great experience. But all of a sudden you start feeling inflationary factors, your money's worth 90% less, you start thinking, well, how do I feed myself, let alone a family? That becomes an issue.
Yeah, well, families are having 2 incomes and no babies, right? It used to be double income, no kids, the dinks. That's actually become a matter of survival financially to a lot of people. I can't afford it. Charlie Kirk said it, have more kids than you can afford, but the average American looking at that is like, I might get married later, might have kids later, and as a result, family sizes are shrinking. And that is the 5th trial by fire. I call it demographic destiny. Because birth rates have plummeted, abortion's a big part of the problem, but so is a decline in marriage, people getting married later and having fewer babies and having 2 incomes. So we can't really afford to have a stay-at-home parent. And I've got a chart here from Dave Bratt. He is former congressman, he's a PhD in economics, and he shows from when we left the gold standard in 1971, you see the average age for women and men getting married, first-time marriage, it's gone up from 20 to 23. It's now 28 to 30.
Yeah, and, you know, and back in the dinks, that was almost more of a selfish thing. Well, I don't need to have kids, I can wait. You know, we don't need to have them early now. But now it's changed. It's not necessarily that. It's the economic factors that are making it like, I don't even have a house yet. I can't think about getting married. And so you look at this, it makes sense that people are waiting later, they're waiting longer, and they're saying, how's this going to work for me? And
having fewer children in a family. Here's another chart. 1971 is when everything changed, when we left sound money. So you're going to catch some of the answer here is to go back to honest weights and measures in money. That's a big part of the answer. It's not the only answer. And we're going to go through all of these 6 trials by fire in one per episode so that you can find the right answer on them. But the final blow for America is that we're following Europe's collapse. Have you been to Europe?
Not recently. A long time ago when I was junior, well, I take that back. When I got married, and prior to that, when I was in junior high, I went on a trip there, and I remember them saying that in the future, the Muslim population is going to be the #1 demographic in London. That was way back then.
And it's happening now. And that is the 6th trial by fire is immigration without assimilation. Now, here's a phrase. Immigration without assimilation is invasion. It's not people coming in to take part of the American dream. We have open borders, or had them, thank you, President Trump, but we had open borders, that equals invasion. It's supported by our corporations who, because we're not having babies, they want to import cheap labor, they need workers, and then we have a social welfare policy that pays people to bring in bodies. So a bunch of nonprofits bringing people in and earning money from it. But here's the problem. If you have a broad social welfare system, people, instead of wanting to be a part of the American dream, they think the American dream is to keep their history from their former country, stay in the same culture and identity and everything else, and not assimilate into America to make money. They just get paid by America.
Yeah. And up till recently, you come on the gravy train, put me up in the hotel, give me my meals. That's not a bad gig, at least short term.
That is the 6th trial by fire that we're going to have to address, walk through these fires in some cases. Over the next 6 weeks, we'll do a deep dive into each of these trials by fire. We're going to apply constitutional and biblical solutions to each and every one of them. Plus, we will explore ways that you can protect yourself and your family, and maybe even invest in a solution. I think we've got some common sense ideas. We've been hatching these in the economic war room. We've had summits on them. We've been working hard on these. I think they're going to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful part about what we're doing. And I believe it's, with all humility, I believe God has given us insights on these are things that we can do to help protect America, to help protect our national security, to help protect liberty, to help protect the values and get the message out there. But it's going to be up to us as individuals to say, all right, God, what is my role in this? Where do I play in this? And how is my heart?
Yeah.
Am I right on this thing?
The worst of, we've covered the who. The villains are the red, green, blue, and black. The red, communist China, which is infiltrated. The Islamist Sharia, want to enforce Sharia against the Constitution. The United Nations and the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization that wants to globalize everything. But the worst of all of them may be our own black heart that's either apathetic or it's lazy or it's traitorous or it's greedy. Those are the things. And we've got some political solutions.
It could be lazy. I'm just going to wait for the Lord to return. And I hope that's not, our audience. And I hope that's not, I know it's not me, but it's easy to go, well, this looks so impossible. All right, I'm just going to, God, please take care of it.
We're going to have to wake people up, and they're going to have to get active and involved politically, and then they're going to have to make the right decisions for their family. Charlie Kirk asked me to head a coalition to address these problems. He called it SCAN, S-C-A-N, Saving Civilization Action Network. Now, we've got a domain name. If you go there, you'll be disappointed. It's not ready yet. We hope to unveil it at Amerifest in Phoenix this December, along with an incredible team of patriots. But you can watch it, scanhq.com. That's where it's going to be. And Mike, we've been pushing transactional gold and silver, also known as pirate money. I think that's a big part of the answer.
Yeah, and we're seeing how God is miraculously moving things there, which gives me hope in some of these other things we're talking about now.
God wants fair weights and measures. It's biblical, it's constitutional, it's free market, and it's a personal solution for trials 1 through 4 at least, and will have an impact on 5 and 6 as well. It's going to shrink the wealth gap, defend the dollar, and protect America. And then we also have the NSIC Institute for Patriotic Investors.
Yeah, and we see more and more at the State Financial Officers Foundation conference we were just at, the importance of making sure the money is funding the things, the values that we believe in, the values that made us great. And so often that's not the case.
Yep, we're going to build up America rather than sending money overseas, give immigrants a reason to assimilate, to benefit from the American dream rather than stay in their own silos and receive welfare checks. There's good news. We can do this. I'm encouraged by the meetings that we had in D.C. recently and at Liberty Hawk. It's catching on. We've had conversations with key leaders, including people at the White House. This is a conservative movement coming alongside, but the time is short. We still have time, but it's short. So stay tuned for the next 6 weeks. We've only skimmed the surface of both the trials and the solutions. It's a great time to be alive and a great time to be optimistic. We'll summarize all of it in our free economic battle plan. What we see as a marketplace, our enemies view as a battle space. It's Kevin Freeman with Mike Carter and the Economic War Room.